All right, so let's take a look at this. So we're asking you to write up some use cases for the project that we introduced last week. And if we read through that, we will identify first a set of actors that are participating in using the system, right? And then from the point of view of those actors, we would like to see what are these different actors trying to achieve. What is their goal, right? All the different things that they want to accomplish, right? And so in this first assignments, right? We're asking to write up a couple of use cases using a template that we're providing for you. It's this one, where this is taken from the book that we are referencing throughout, where you give a title to the use case. I would suggest use a verb phrase, right? That somebody is doing something, right? It's acting on something. And also list if you have multiple actors that are participating, maybe it's you and a buddy or somebody that you're liking, some other person, or you're following someone else. So that might be two actors, or that you're inviting someone else to follow you, perhaps, right? You have to send an invitation, and somebody has to accept the invitation. So there might be two actors in there, right? Plus the system, so there would be maybe three things that are interacting with one another, right? So you would describe the primary actor, perhaps the person who's sending the invitation, but you might have other secondary actors, right? That might be the other folks who you're inviting to participate, and also the systems, the non human actors as well. You might have a goal. What is it that particular person is trying to achieve? It might be a sentence that explains what is it that they're trying to achieve. Some of the assumptions of the use case, right? That you might be already. So as you have multiple goals, depending on the different things that you can do on the website, some of those goals assume that you have already achieved previous goals, right? That puts the application in a particular state, right? That you already searched it, right? So maybe one of the goals might be that you want to be able to search movies, that you want to look at the details of a movie, right? That you want to just read the reviews of a movie, that you like to create a review for a movie, right? Maybe you want to reply to a review to somebody who has created a review, right? Maybe you want to bookmark the movie. And maybe you want to see all the reviews that you've written, right? Or maybe you want to go into somebody else's profile and see all the reviews that they've written. Okay, and once you've read all the reviews and you find this person amusing and you want to keep following them, you want to maybe follow them or bookmark them or ask them that you want to invite them. So all these different goals would be different use cases, right? And each use case will have assumptions of goals that you might have already achieved, right? If the goal is to read your particular reviews, it assumes that you have already reviewed a couple of movies, right? So you might put those preconditions there, right? I'm assuming that you have already written several reviews. I'm assuming that I'm at my that I've logged in already, right? And so how would I achieve the fact that I want to read all my reviews, right? So I would navigate and click on a link, perhaps, or whatnot. And so then the trigger, right? That the event that causes this this particular scenario. And then in the scenario itself, the step-by-step, one at a time, in succinct syntax, explain what you're doing. Yes?
So if the definition was that the user was already logged in, we wouldn't need to step through the scenario from the very beginning of it when they open.
Right, exactly. Right. So there might be one scenario that is logging in, okay? or registering, right, or visiting your profile. And so you can describe that once, right, and then for all other scenarios, you don't have to say that again. So I'm assuming that you logged in. So I'm not going to go through those steps again, right? And that's declared somewhere else, right?
So it's best just to separate out everything else.
Yes, exactly. Yep. Oftentimes we don't document trivial use cases like logging in or registering, unless there's a very specific way of registering that's important for the business. Then you document it. But trivial use cases, oftentimes we don't document them, right? But for this case, we will. Let's document everything, okay? Just to practice at least, right? Also, these scenarios should be explicit that I understand what you're trying to achieve, and this allows you to achieve it, but not as so explicit that it commits you to a particular technology, right? That so don't say click or push or drag or things that force you that it has to be a mobile application, or that it has to be a desktop web application, or it has to be any particular delivery of the application. That makes sense? So instead you would say, you submit, you select, right? You choose. So you're leaving it broad enough that a later team, a design team, right, can read this and say, oh, well, this is what it would look like on a mobile phone, and this is what it would look like on a desktop web application, or this is what it would look like on a standalone native application. Yes? So yes, it needs to be have enough information that I can go off and actually build this, choosing a particular framework. Right? But it should not be restricted that it doesn't let me choose what that framework might be. Okay? So don't have queries or database anything. Don't do any don't commit to any technology. Here the exceptions we're documenting them separately, but you might want to choose perhaps as part of the scenario, the main scenario. Step number 5, you might list 3 scenarios, 3 exceptions, 5A, 5B, 5C, and then you could follow the details of those 5A, 5B, 5C in the exceptions. Right? You can then extend and explain the exceptions in the exceptions section. Priority. All right. So presumably there's been a discussion with your stakeholders on the priority of this use case, right? Typically, all these use cases will be documented as well as in some backlog. One use case might be represented as 4, 5, 10, 20 different stories, right? In Jira or one of these tracking tools, right? On how you're going to implement this, right? And so it'll be represented in some backlog of things that need to be done, right? And together the business analyst, the project manager, the VPs and whatnot, right, are going to meet and come up with the relative priority of all these things that need to be done, right? So this particular use case will be given some relative score on what its relative priority amongst other use cases, right? When available, typically again part of that prioritization we'll decide what it is that we do first. Typically we'll have a body of backlog things that need to be done. Presumably we would give scores of how complex each one of those tasks are, and depending on those points that we give them, and depending on past experience of our velocity on how many points can we consume or how many points can we deliver every sprint, we can start thinking about how predictions on how far we think we can get done, right? And with negotiation, we can come up with, we can hit these amounts of features for phase one, right? In the next 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever, right? So those phases, maybe release one, release two, would be target delivery, target releases that would be listed here. So this is targeted for release one, release two, whatnot, whatever that means for the that we've agreed on what that means, right? So here's some additional information that you might want to add. Not necessarily, it's optional on who knows about this, right? If you don't understand this, who's the owner of this that I can go back for questions, or who's the subject matter expert, who I might come back to and ask some questions if I don't understand this particular use case. That might give me some information, or the actual person that's going to be using this, right? It might be that this use case is related or somehow dependent on other use cases, right? So I might want to know, or it might be that this use case is also part of a larger epic set of use cases that are somewhat need to be delivered together, right? So anyway, so this is just a suggestion. You're welcome to use other templates that you might be familiar from perhaps other courses you might have taken, or if you've taken a co-op and if you've participated in any of these meetings from your employer, you're welcome to use some of those templates as well. Right. So this is all early on. Let's see, this part of the project, see the process, creating the use cases, expressing the product, see the use cases, a story about how a user might interact with the system. There's a story written by the perspective of a particular user. The system is considered like a black box. When working on a use case, you keep track of the ideas about something might get done. Of course, you don't lose good ideas. Several types. End user, example one, admin might, okay. Here's a tentative rubric on some of the expectations. I think we said how many requirements, how many use cases. 5 medium high quality use cases, that's a C. 6 to 10 high quality, it's a B. Full on, I guess that would mean more than 10 use cases, and then that would be an A. At least 2 user types. All right, so let's take a look at the project again, the description for the project. Oop, that's not it. Where's the project? There we go. Right. So reading through this, one might already identify a couple of use cases that are somewhat listed here numerically, right? So these 5 use cases of signing up for the account, that they can rate movies. They can find or identify somehow friends, right? So these are already clues, right, of some of the use cases that might be of interest, right? And since the author has gone through the trouble of actually listing them, perhaps they seem to be fairly important to the author of this document. Certainly, each one of these use cases might assume, right, other features that are not explicitly listed here, right? But nevertheless, it might assume that you already have a library of movies that are there, or maybe they're stored, that you have a history that you can use to predict the things that I like. That it's presumably has some partnership with some other system that has this information. Perhaps it could be IMDb, right? Or it could be Rotten Tomatoes, or it could be some other folks that we're interacting. Perhaps we're not the owners of our own data, or we're interacting with Netflix. From somewhere we're drawing this information, some service. So we probably are doing some partnership with some other folks that we depend on. Let's read through some of this. Users sign up an account and have at their disposal an IMDb-like system. That is to say, they can search for movies and learn about their plot, cast, awards, availability, and local theaters. So one of the questions that might be of interest is okay, well, if you say IMDb-like, well, how like is it to IMDb? Well, because IMDb has quite a bit of things, right? It has also TV, it's gone into theater, has gone into a lot of media, right? And it has a lot of connections to many other systems. So how alike IMDb is it, right? Or are we talking about just a subset of the functionality of IMDb that you just can search a movie and it just shows you some information, some very minor information about it, but then you can start navigating and follow the lifespan of a particular actor, right? And lots of pictures from IMDb. Is that what we mean by like IMDb? So certainly there's a lot of questions there on the scope, right? The overall scope of the entire project, right? And those kinds of questions is what I would expect, from you are we going to start discussing these types of requirements, right? How alike IMDb are we, or Netflix, or Amazon, and things like this? So it says we want to bridge the gap between these two, so social networking and watching movies or searching for movies. So okay, so then the question may be, well, how alike from Facebook do you want to be, right? And so again, what is the scope? Do we want folks to be able to view their own pictures or share these things with others? Are we, how alike are we a social network? Certainly, social networking has lots and lots of different features. Obviously, we're looking for something much more reduced. So certainly, we'd like to talk about the scope of this. Users rate their movies, which automatically forms rating-based playlists and contributes to future recommendations. So what does that mean? Why would I, if I'm looking at Netflix at a movie, that's natural, right? I looked at it and it might ask me to rate it, yes. But if I go to IMDb, would I naturally rate a movie in IMDb? Maybe not. Presumably, I'm only a consumer of the data, right, and not necessarily participate in any social gathering with other folks in IMDb, yes. But presumably, this assumes that I am somehow going to provide this rating. Is it going to as I log in, it can immediately start asking me, hey, how about these 10 movies, right? Have you, or it might be deciding to give me one at a time and say, can you rate this movie? Have you seen it? And if have you seen it, can you rate it? And then you say next until you want to quit, right? And say enough. So is that how it's going to ask me to rate it? Or once in a while, randomly, every time I log in, it'll ask me for one movie, perhaps? Or as I search, then it asks me to rate it. Movies that are like the one I searched, right? And then ask me to rate a couple of them. What kind of incentives it might give me to rate it, right? To get me to rate things. So lots of open questions on how is it that we're going to rate it. It's fairly vague. Users can identify friends, and this is identify friends. How is it that we identify? Do we just have a field that we can just search for friends and first name, last name, right? Is there a privacy issue there that some of these things might be publicly available that I can just search for anybody? Will I get maybe an invite from a friend, or perhaps is it that as I search and I see a result of these searches, and when I look at a particular movie, I see maybe a list of folks who have reviewed the movie prior, right? And those might be folks, right, that I might care to socialize with. Yes, I can click on their username and then view maybe their profile. Yes, can I view their entire profile? Probably there might be a public profile, right? Or can I choose what's private, what's public? that can be shown or not. And so it's not clear, right? How is that we would identify a friend? I'd love to hear from you what you think could be an option for finding friends, right? It could be that some social networks allow you to search for anybody in the social network, just by start typing their first name and last name, and they give you a list of folks that match that criteria. Others are not as open, right? Instead, they're more organic. They grow, because you like the same movies that I like, right? Or we fall in some category. If I join a particular group of either a graduate from a university or business group, then we naturally fall in that group. So again, it's not clear what it might be. I would since we mentioned Facebook, right? Perhaps you might want to see what Facebook does. How is it that you find folks? You can do a search, or from time to time Facebook will suggest friends to me, right? Or because I'm following one particular person, it might be that I might want to follow folks that they follow, right? So take a look at what Facebook does, right? And then you might want to suggest what this means. Okay, so a lot of unanswered questions, right? A lot of vague stuff here. So once a user has friends, they can prod each other with movies to see either together or just a friendly pointer. And once a user has friends, they can prod each other with movies. Okay, so I guess I can send specific messages or saying that I'm watching this movie. How about you? And we can enter in some kind of interaction. Finally, the system produces recommendations based on a couple of algorithms. So maybe this is a little more specific about critic rating, average rating, and user collaborative filtering. We're going to give you these algorithms and give you probably even the implementation of these algorithms that you can use. But nevertheless, it gives me a recommendation. So when does it give me the recommendation? Is it when I search and maybe at the bottom it shows me, hey, because you've seen this, then you might want to see this, or does it randomly pop up some dialogue and interrupts me when I'm in the middle of something? So how is it that it's going to recommend this? Is it periodically? Is it at the end of some particular event that I do? Right. So this goes into a little bit of the algorithm on rating the movie, presumably based on how similar our profiles are, right? Depending on my genre, my gender, my age, certain questions at the beginning, it might say, oh well, your profile might be similar to somebody else's profile, right? And based on those profiles, this person has liked these movies. Maybe you also like those same movies, right? So trying to fit some scatter plot and how close my representation of a profile and my representation of my likes matches with somebody else's. So looks that we're also considering partnering with other folks like movie theaters, right, and other outlets like iTunes, Prime Video, that we can create some affiliated partnerships with other folks that we can do some sharing, financial sharing here. Let's see what else. Right, and how this could eventually be moved to other domains such as music or books and whatnot. Okay. Anyway, lots and lots of open questions that we're going to be addressing throughout. Okay. You have any questions? No. All right, that's all I have for you today.